Tonight's MLB slate is what I would deem to be unbalanced because there are just two pitchers I want to use, despite there being 9 games, so 18 total starters. Only 2 of them I actually want to use in DFS for tonight. But there are 9 different teams I would be okay stacking. So it's a weird situation where I think that, this is the way I tend to play things in general, but I think that you want to build heavily around 2 pitchers, differentiate a bit with the stacks, and it actually bodes well. And that's the way you do want to play things in general for DFS. So I think despite the fact there are not a lot of pitchers I want to use, it's still a slate that I feel pretty comfortable with for tonight. So let's dive on in and get you set for Monday's MLB DFS slate. Welcome on into the solo shot. That's right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network and numberFire.com. My name is Jim Sonis. I am a senior writer and analyst for numberFire.com, here to break down today's 9-game MLB DFS main slate with lock set for 7:05 for tonight. And there are some weather notes on this slate, starting off with some wind in New York and in Boston at Yankee Stadium for the Yankees and the Angels. Winds are out to left field at 10 miles per hour. It's also 87 degrees and humid, so really good conditions for hitters in New York for today. Similar situation in Boston with winds out to center at 10 miles per hour. So upgrade hitters for the Yankees, Angels, Red Sox, and Royals due to weather for tonight. There is a chance of rain in Chicago for the Twins and the White Sox. The rain odds aren't all that high, but they are consistent. Like it's around 30% throughout the entire game. So I check back on that one later on. Same thing in St. Louis for the Diamondbacks and the Cardinals. I would guess that they play, but check back on that one later as well. We'll have updates on weather later on today, and also we can talk through all these delicious stacks. You can ask me about additional pitchers we may want. That's in the 4 p.m. stream on the FanDuel YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter pages, but we had a lot of fun last week doing the betting segment after, so we're going to bring Aaron Dolan back for this week as well at 4:30, talking NBA betting. I'll be talking about tonight's game between the Suns and the Clippers. That is tonight, so make sure you tune in 4 p.m. for MLB DFS, 4:30 for Aaron talking betting. That is all on the numberFire or the FanDuel YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter pages. So make sure you are subscribed there. And while you're there, make sure you follow. And also, if you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button there because that does help us out quite a bit as well. Speaking of the NBA, hey, basketball fans, the NBA Conference Finals are here, and FanDuel is offering a special new user bonus. Place a bet on any single team's money line, and you will receive exclusive 30-1 odds for that wager. All you have to do is head over to FanDuel Sportsbook, create an account, and take advantage of this amazing NBA playoff odds boost. Maximum bet of $5, must be 21 plus and present in Colorado, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, or West Virginia. New users only, $10 first deposit required. Max bonus $150. Restrictions apply. See full terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Colorado, 1-800-522-4700. In Iowa, 1-800-BETS-OFF. In Indiana, 1-800-9-WITH-IT. For confidential help in Michigan, call 1-800-270-7117. In Tennessee, call the Red Line at 1-800-889-9789. Or in West Virginia, visit 1-800-GAMBLER.net. Pitching preview for this Monday main slate. Trevor Bauer is the highest salaried pitcher on FanDuel. He checks in at $11,000. We have Lucas Giolito facing the Twins at $9,800. Freddie Peralta facing the Cubs is $9,500. Kyle Hendricks in that same game facing the Brewers, $9,300. Then Zach Greinke, Anthony DeSclafani, and Danny Duffy are the others at $8,000 or higher. Now, looking at this slate, the only 2 guys who I actually want to use are Freddie Peralta and Lucas Giolito. We'll talk about Bauer and things to watch. All the value plays kind of stink. But I do think that Peralta and Giolito are interesting for the same reason. It's because they've been good all year, but also especially since the sticky stuff discussion began. So I like them both a lot here. And I'm going to give the edge to Peralta at $9,500. Peralta is facing the Cubs, and they're not a bad offense, but they're below average versus righties with a 93 WRC plus, and they do strike out. They have a 26% strikeout rate versus righties this year based on their current active roster. That is good for opposing pitchers' upside. You want strikeouts for the opposing team. Peralta has upside by himself. He has had his spin rate go down a noticeable amount in this time, so it's worth noting that for sure. Not sure why that's the case. Don't want to make any accusations, but regardless, Peralta is navigating around it pretty well. He has made 4 starts with the decreased spin rate, and in that time, Peralta has a 34% strikeout rate with a 3.30 skill interactive ERA. He also had double-digit strikeouts his last time out, which of course obviously came when they were checking pitchers during games. That game was against Arizona, so you can probably write that one off. But he also had 2 starts against Cincinnati in that stretch, and they are a better offense than Chicago. He went 11 innings combined in those 2 starts, allowed 3 earned runs with 12 strikeouts. So even against a better offense in the Reds, Peralta was still really good. The Cubs haven't seen Peralta in a while. They have seen him 3 times, but they all happened back in April. And Peralta was good in all 3 matchups. He had at least 7 strikeouts each time. He had no more than 2 earned runs, and he's pitching great right now. So I think that Freddie Peralta has done more than enough to be the top pitcher on this slate. He also gets you a discount, $9,500. Given that I want to stack the Astros, spoiler alert, I think that I will take those salary savings. So Peralta, to me, at $9,500, a guy I do like quite a bit. Now, I'm very okay with Giolito as being the number 2 option here, and I think to me, he is definitively number 2 above the rest. The big difference for me between Peralta and Giolito is the matchup. Giolito is facing the Twins, and they're better than the Cubs overall with a 104 WRC plus against righties, and they strike out less, a 23% clip. So it is a worse spot for Giolito than it is for Peralta, and that's enough for me to put Peralta first and Giolito second. But that very much does not push Giolito off the map. That's largely because Giolito is, if we're looking at this from a talent perspective, on the same level as Peralta. Across 15 starts this year, Giolito has a 3.43 skill interactive ERA with a 31% strikeout rate. Now, that's a full season, but if you do want to zero in the month of June, the strikeout rate for Giolito actually goes up to 33%. His walk rate goes down to 5%, which is weird. It's encouraging, but it's weird. That's in part due to plus matchups because Giolito has faced the Pirates once and the Tigers twice, in addition to the Rays. So if we're looking at worst matchups for DFS in this time, this is probably the worst one Giolito has had, and it could lead to a downtick, and it likely will. I just don't think that downtick will be enough to make Giolito a bad play or worse than any of the other pitchers on tonight's slate. I like what I've seen from Giolito all year long. We have not seen a huge downtick since the rule change, so Peralta could always stumble, and he does have some hard contact, and the Cubs have some big boppers, so I think that could lead to some leeway here. Giolito gets a ton of leash with his pitch counts. So it's very possible Giolito is the top scoring guy in this slate. So I want a good amount of both. I would say they're probably the only 2 guys I will use tonight. So if I were allocating exposures, I would say 60-40 in favor of Peralta, maybe 55-45, somewhere in that range. It's not a huge gap between them, but it is big enough where I can say pretty firmly that I'll be on Peralta over Giolito for tonight. Again, check back on the weather for the Twins game, the White Sox game, because there is some rain there. But as of right now, I'm expecting that game to be good to go. So that's the way I want to play things with pitcher for tonight. Just build around those 2 guys, Peralta and Giolito, and concentrate my exposure there. I am going to talk about Anthony DeSclafani as my top value for tonight. I feel obligated to give you a lower salaried option if you want to use it, but I also want to make abundantly clear that I am not going to use it. I do not think it is worth it. So to be clear, I am not going to use Anthony DeSclafani, and I don't want to mislead you in that, but if I'm listing out the top value option, he would be that. And the reason I think that is that he's been pitching pretty well recently. He has had decreased movement over his past 4 starts, which coincides with the sticky stuff discussion, but it's weirdly made him more effective. He has a 3.37 skill interactive ERA with a 27% strikeout rate and a 4% walk rate. DeSclafani is also keeping batted balls in check, which hasn't always been true before this. It does seem like he's benefited from the schedule because DeSclafani's faced the Cubs, the Nationals, and the Diamondbacks, and none of those teams are great. The counterpoint, though, is that he faced the Angels last week, and he was very good there with 9 strikeouts over 7 shutout innings, which means that it's within his range of outcomes to have a very good game for tonight. So you can definitely justify using DeSclafani as a result of this. It just doesn't really fit my style. If he were facing a team not named the Dodgers, I might be there. But he is facing the Dodgers, so I'm not. So to me, It's basically just Peralta and Giolito for tonight. And by basically, I mean it literally is just those two. I might go some DeSclafani if the weather for Giolito worsens. But as of right now, just Peralta and Giolito. And then if you need a value play, DeSclafani. But for me, doesn't quite fit what I want for tonight. So we're playing things pretty tight at pitcher for today, which allows us to differentiate a bit at hitter. There is one stack, though, that does stand out quite a bit to me. And it's a stack that might be tough to get to with Peralta. If you use Peralta as your pitcher, your remaining salary for batters is $31.88 per batter, which isn't super high, but I do think it's enough for you to stack the Astros. It just means we'll need to find a value stack to pair with them for today, and I think that we can find that later on. So the Astros, the top option for stacking again for tonight. Facing Thomas Eshelman again. They saw him last week in Baltimore, and Eshelman struggled there. He let up 6 runs across 4 innings with just 1 strikeout. His swing and strike rate there was 3.8%, and it's not just one rough start for Eshelman. He had a 6.41 ERA in AAA before he got called up, and all of this is in line with what happened to him last year too. It's going to be tough for Eshelman to turn things around here, especially facing Houston for a second straight start, now going on the road. It isn't a great park factor for tonight because they'll likely have the roof closed, but it's still a situation where I think the Astros make a lot of sense. It will be kind of tough to stack the Astros with Peralta, and it's certainly not a necessity because there are a lot of good options for today, but I do want to at least give it a shot. The big question here is whether a $3,000 salary can get me to budge on my no Yuli Gurriel versus righties creed. I almost exclusively use Gurriel against lefties because against righties, his ISO is 132, which is basically half of what it is against lefties. I think in here I can make an exception because it's just too good of a salary to get exposure to this specific offense. And it's not like Gurriel is incapable of upside. So if you use Abraham Toro at $2,700 and Gurriel at $3,000, you can get 2 studs in there with Peralta. I'd prefer Kyle Tucker at $3,300 over Gurriel, even though Tucker will likely be lower in the order. So straight up, if you give me, the same ability to use both, I would take Tucker. But I think it is worth mentioning that Gurriel, I am less opposed to him than usual. And if I have to use him with Tucker in order to jam in the stack, I will. I think it is worthwhile for tonight. So lifting my no Yuli versus righties creed for this one slate. One potential route for saving salary here is stacking the Royals. They are facing Garrett Richards, and it's very, very clear he is struggling without the sticky stuff. And it's not like he's hiding it. He's been very vocal in his opposition to this new enforcement. And so we can just say, yeah, he's probably a victim of this, but it's not making his results any better. Richards is at 4 starts since this all blew up. His skill interactive ERA is 5.43. He has a 13% strikeout rate with a 10% walk rate. And the worst part is he's allowing hard contact a whopping 64% of the time. The league average is about 39%. He is well above that. Richards is still getting some ground balls, but it doesn't matter with how bad everything else has been. The one saving grace for Richards here is that he's finally facing a non-top-notch team. He has faced the Rays, Braves, Blue Jays, and Yankees in this 4-start sample. The Royals are very much not on that level. It's a big step down here. So if Richards were to turn it around, post-sticky stuff discussion, it could wind up being here. But I am willing to roll out the Royals here regardless to save the salary. And the big guy to help here is Ryan O'Hearn. He is $2,700 and likely to bat in the middle of the lineup. He has a 250 ISO versus righties this year, had some pop last year too. He does strike out, but that's not as big of an issue with Richards starting as with most other pitchers. So I would start my Royal stack there. Jorge Soler cutting back on his strikeouts this month. That's a good thing. He's $2,900. So if you start with those guys, Soler, O'Hearn, it should make it easier to get up to the Astros for your second stack along with Peralta for today. For the final stack, I want to go to Yankee Stadium. The Yankees are facing Dylan Bundy, and Bundy is, I wouldn't classify him as a spin rate decreaser. There may be that too, but the more noticeable and more impactful thing for Bundy is that his velocity is on the decline. That's not tied to sticky stuff. Sticky stuff increases movement. Velocity is something else. And that's led to some really rough outings for Bundy. So I want to stack against him here. Bundy's velocity has been down for his past 5 starts now. He has a 5.21 skill interactive ERA with a 15% strikeout rate, and he's allowing hard contact 51% of the time. As mentioned with Richards, league average is around 39%. 51%, pretty scary. All those starts for Bundy have come out west or in average or worse park factors for batting, and his ERA is still 8.10 in that time. He lit up 4 runs twice and 7 runs once. Now he goes to New York to face the Yankees in hot temperatures and with the winds blowing out. I'm worried about what could happen here for Bundy. I like Bundy. He's pretty fun, but it's a rough situation for sure. We have reason to believe that this downtick for Bundy is legit due to the decreased velocity, and now you put him in a tough spot for pitching, and I want to stack the Yankees as a result for tonight. With Bundy, we can go to either righties or lefties, which is a good thing given the composition of the Yankees lineup right now. So Luke Voit, once again, top value guy here. He is $2,600. He's up to a 205 ISO against righties across 48 plate appearances this year. He's looked good enough since he returned from the IL. So I think that you start there with Luke Voit and then kind of see what you need. Gio Urshela is in play as a value once again, or I guess a quasi-value $3,000. But plug in those guys, see what you have to work with from there. Gary Sanchez, also willing to use him versus righties now. So I do think the Yankees, easy to get to for today in terms of stacking with Freddie Peralta. So let's finish up here with things to watch. I'll talk about the other stacking options in a second. But first, let's give an update on Trevor Bauer. He is up to 4 starts since the sticky stuff discussion. His strikeout rate is 30%. That is lower than Peralta and Giolito in this time. And he also has given up more walks. He's given up more impactful contact against him in this time. So Bauer can still have big games, which he did last time out. I mean, from a DFS perspective, he's had 2 of those now in 4 starts in this time. So he's not like a bad pitcher, but he's not worth $11,000, especially against a team like the Giants. So if I were ranking out pitchers for today, Bauer would rank 3rd, but he's higher salary than them. I feel better about them. So to me, it really is about Giolito and Peralta. Bauer would be number 3 above DeSclafani if I were deciding who I wanted to use. But I really, again, I think I'm just going to build around those 2 guys for tonight. Now let's talk about the other stacks because there are, again, 9. We've talked through 3 so far. The other ones you could go to include the Tigers, Angels, Cleveland, Diamondbacks, Nationals, and Cardinals. So a lot. And that's probably the order I'd rank them in if we're going straight up here. The Tigers are facing Eli Morgan. They could be another place for some value. Morgan is getting strikeouts. He's at a 28% clip in those 3 starts. That's why I prefer the Royals over the Tigers from a value perspective. But everything else that Morgan's done so far is perfect for stacking, including the results he's gotten both in AAA and in the majors. So Akil Baddoo, really good value option here for the Tigers if he's in there. So I think that that's where I would go for other value outside of the Royals is check out the Tigers. Another potential spot could be Arizona. I know they're bad, but they're facing Wade LeBlanc. He is going into the rotation now with the movement that they've had inside that rotation. And I'm not sure if he's actually an improvement over John Gant, but LeBlanc, not necessarily great in the bullpen. He also was not a shutdown guy as a starter last year. I could see stacking Arizona. It's kind of hard to know who will play here because Ketel Marte has been in and out of the lineup with injuries. Eduardo Escobar might be traded by the time you listen to this. So those are the top guys we'd want here, but I don't know if they'll play. Might be able to get Christian Walker as a one-off at $2,800, but first base between O'Hearn, Voit, and Gurriel, pretty loaded for tonight. So I think they're an option. If you can get to the Angels, like if you find a value play you like, or if you don't want to go to the Astros, the Angels are a really good option against King in New York. That's where I'd probably go there for a second high salaried option for today. So Astros, top high salaried stack, followed by maybe the Yankees and then the Angels. Value stacks, Royals and Tigers for today. I think that's where I'm seeing the best spots among the abundant stacking options for today. We'll talk more about that during the 4 p.m. stream. So make sure you swing by here at 4 p.m. Eastern to check out the MLB Q&A. I forgot to do my dinger picks for today. So let's get those in now. These are not researched ahead of time because I forgot, but let's do these because I do want to make this a habit going forward. I do want a Yankee, so I'm probably going to go with Aaron Judge as the boring pick. Aaron Judge is the boring pick. And the more fun pick for today, let's go with Badu. Akil Badu against it's Akil Badu against Eli Morgan. I think that's the value one, or the more fun one for today. So the boring one is Aaron Judge. The fun one is Akil Badu against Eli Morgan. Those are the dinger picks for today. And if I forget to do the dinger picks here, just bug me about it during the 4 p.m. stream. We'll get them in there. YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter, the FanDuel accounts there. Make sure to subscribe. Also hit the like button on YouTube if you're watching there right now. I appreciate those of you who have done so already. Also, make sure you are subscribed to the numberFire Daily Fantasy Podcast feed. PGA podcast coming up tomorrow with myself and Brandon Gadula, breaking down the Rocket Mortgage Classic, letting you know which golfers we are on there for PGA DFS on FanDuel. We, of course, have no UFC this week because they're off due to the holiday, but NASCAR back for Road America on Friday as well. Big thank you to everyone for tuning in for today. Appreciate it as always. Good luck to you tonight. We'll talk to you once again tomorrow. This has been the Solo Shot right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network.